All right, here we go. Let's record. All right, everybody, man. Welcome back, man, to Keeping Weight Off, episode 2, featuring not only is he my frat brother, but he's also my actual primary doctor, Doctor Donald Higgins. And I'm going to welcome him on to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for doing something like this. I know it's a big part of probably your journey and whatnot, and I'm happy to be along for the ride, and hopefully I can give you some insight to help you out along the way, and maybe we'll help out somebody else.
Oh, most definitely, man. Like, we're going to get into it whenever we get into the actual conversation, everything you have done for me. But let's start off by just, introducing yourself, giving the people a little spiel about yourself and your credentials as a doctor.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm a local guy. For anybody in the Lake Charles area, I'm Lake Charles born and raised. Went and did my undergrad at LSU. Go Tigers! National champs. Probably looking like we're gonna be 2 years running with everything with COVID.
Yes,
even
sir.
though I wanted to miss out on football season, but I'll wear that hat one more year, like yourself. And
yes, sir.
After undergrad, I worked in Lafayette for just a little bit, kind of getting some experience at Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital before I went to medical school at St. George's University in Grenada, West Indies. Did 2
okay.
years out there, and basically did all my coursework, and then transferred back into the United States for 2 years. Did some rotations on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey, some in Chicago, and then I was blessed to be able to do some of them in Louisiana. So my clinical experience kind of a little different than a lot of folks in medical school. That I got to see a lot of different things, kind of across the Midwest, East Coast, and the South. Then I came back to Lake Charles and finished a family medicine residency at Lake Charles Memorial Hospital. As a 3-year program. Board certified in family medicine, and I'm currently working as an employed physician for Lake Charles Memorial with Memorial Medical Group. I do also work as a wound care specialist with Memorial, and I've done some hospice work. So I've dabbled a little bit. The beauty of family medicine is you get to kind of figure out what you want to do when you grow up, even as a doctor. I've enjoyed it along the way, but my primary focus is clinic and helping people with chronic issues. You always got your cough, cold, congestion, but a big thing in South Louisiana, we have high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and obesity is a big thing. So kind of leads right into what you're doing with your podcast and what we'll be talking about today. But that's me. Along the way, I'm pledged Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated at the Iota Tau chapter at LSU, and still active, trying to stay active with the grad chapter in Lake Charles.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Like, I didn't know about the West Indies thing. That's pretty cool. I know that was the experience.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of interesting because I traveled. I applied because I didn't get into medical school in the United States the first go around. I only applied to like LSU and Tulane. And I think I kind of applied a little late, and they interviewed me and they said, come back another year and work on your scores, on your testing. So I worked on my scores, and then I talked to a guy that's from Lake Charles that went to the West Indies for school at St. George's, and kind of, demystified the whole international medical student thing and kind of figured out, how I could fit into it and how it could fit for me. And I was kind of on the first thing smoking. So interesting fact is the day I left the United States to go to the Caribbean was actually the day of the earthquake in Haiti. So it happened while I was actually on a flight. Didn't get to Grenada that night. So I laid over in Trinidad and Tobago. Didn't know a soul down there. But as soon as I get to my hotel room, I see they got an earthquake in Haiti. So I'm like freaking out trying to figure out how far am I from Haiti.
Yeah.
And how far my island was from Haiti and make sure everything was good. But no, it worked out. The West Indies were a beautiful place, beautiful people. It was the first time I got to kind of experience a whole country that was a different demographic than United States, as in, we're predominantly Caucasian, for the most part here, wherever you go. There it was predominantly Afro-Caribbean. They had a lot of similarities to Louisiana culture, being that, we're kind of the top of the Caribbean chain. So it was kind of interesting being able to see the similarities and some of the differences, and just enjoyed the heck out of it while I was down there.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome experience, man. You was able to bring all that back for, people like me. So let's start off, now that you gave your credentials, you let everybody know your credentials. When you mentioned high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity, and
Mm-hmm.
the list can go on of things that we deal with in Louisiana. Because some people always tell me, man, it's hard to lose weight in Louisiana. Y'all food good, but I believe you can break that stigma. Like,
Agreed. So I think you actually said a mouthful. I mean, as somebody who's born and raised in South Louisiana and knows the culture, and knowing that the culture, pretty much, I wouldn't say centers around, but definitely heavily favors food. I mean, most gatherings we have, it's kind of rude to not have some kind of food for your guests. We take pride in it. We enjoy it. So, it tastes good. And people kind of, they know us for that. Another thing is like that I got to see, especially moving to the East Coast and then coming back here, is that, like just kind of showed us what we were talking about before. We don't eat like a lot of the rest of the United States here in South Louisiana. What we eat kind of sometimes on a regular basis ends up being kind of a holiday meal everywhere else.
yes.
Didn't really realize that until I moved elsewhere and kind of saw that everybody else didn't quite eat like we grow up knowing how to eat. So that's one thing right there. It's not just that the food tastes good, but it's also the culture kind of around the food. And, we have people here all the time that do lose weight in Louisiana, and they still, eat the same things we do. They may not eat as much, or they may not eat it as often, or they may find a way that it works for them. But a lot of the issue, I think, is not just that we're good cooks. It's also a cultural thing that we deal with. One other thing that I also learned about moving to the East Coast is that when you come back home and you've lost 10, 15 pounds, just from not eating as much or staying active, walking everywhere because you don't drive, you're a little bit more active on a day-to-day basis. When you get back home, people start wondering what's wrong with you. And I think that's uniquely Southern and probably uniquely kind of deep South, Third Coast, where you lose 10 or 15 pounds and somebody assumes the worst. I've told people down here in Louisiana that I've taken care of as patients, I'm like, check this out. When you leave out of here, go put on 10 or 15 pounds, because you've been eating the wrong things or you've been working a lot and kind of can't make your food, and go to a family gathering and see how many people might say something. There might be a few say, oh, you're pretty okay, you're looking good, or something to that extent. They might get a little passive aggressive with it. But then go do the flip, lose about 5 or 10 pounds. They're going to start offering you more food, asking you if you're missing any meals, what's
wrong with you. Yep.
They're going to ask behind your back, it may come from a good place, you're really worried because when they see somebody lose weight, it might mean the worst. And they usually worry about things like cancer or other things, other ailments. But nobody ever thinks that the first impression is that somebody is taking control of their health in their life and kind of stepping away from food, or anything else. It may not just be food; it may be alcohol intake as well. And but as soon as you start losing that food, you're gonna start getting some cultural pushback, and people will start to kind of wonder things. And if you can answer those questions that they have for you and say, hey, I'm doing my thing, I'm working out more, I'm pushing back, I'm trying to lose weight. trying to get more healthy, then they still might raise an eyebrow and look at you a little
Yep.
different. You know, and that's that's a cultural thing that we have, that we are fighting, and it is one more struggle to deal with in South Louisiana. It's not uniquely South Louisiana, because it's other places too, but in our culture, I think it's more prevalent.
Most definitely, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was just like, me being overweight and having the experience, I don't know what it's like to be on drugs, but I would
Mm-hmm.
think it's something like that, where you're around enablers to
Mm-hmm.
where, we grow up and they just want to make sure, like you say, you eat. So, and you consistently around that, and, you get comfortable being around that. And when you on that journey, like I told them, I was like, when you're on that journey and you exclude yourself from that, you'll be fine. Like, you don't eat all of the holiday meals, like you said, that we normally eat around here. And as soon as you're in that setting, you 9 times out of 10, you're gonna wind up eating that stuff. Like,
True. True.
so
So that's a big thing too about the cultures, that we are all products of our environment. And environment is a big thing, because if everyone around you is, let's say for the sake of argument, if they're a vegan, and they eat small meals, and they basically run, are pretty active, and they exercise for 3 or 4 hours a day, and that's just your norm, well, you're probably going to fall into more of that norm. If it's South Louisiana, and we don't necessarily, unless you're a sportsman or something like that, you may not be an outdoor person, you may not be an active person, but everybody knows that good rice and gravy recipe, or that good gumbo sauce piquant recipe,
oh yes,
and
sir.
it's gonna be some of your go-to comfort foods. And when you eat those things, more likely, it just makes it tougher in the long run to maybe lose weight, unless you deal with portion control. And that's a difficult thing to manage and to evaluate, because it's not really taught at any point in our lives.
No.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert on that. I have my own battles with weight and weight loss and weight gain. And, I've been at points where I'm like, I look at myself, I'm like, okay, this is the biggest I've ever been. It's time to hunker down. And it begins as a process, but there's never like an overnight thing. Anybody can just flip a switch and just
Exactly.
turn one way to another. It's a process. There's a lot of things going on, and I think it's important to understand that it's a process that you can take on, but you have to be committed to it. And kind of some of the things that I end up seeing, I guess if I had to share with you and your listeners something that I see on a regular basis. I see someone who's either gained weight recently or has not been able to lose weight, and they've been exercising more. And then they get frustrated, and they come into the doctor and they say, "Doc, I need help." And sometimes they get taken aback when the first thing I ask them is, "So how much are you eating?" And usually there's some form of this come out of their mouths, and it can be, "I don't eat that much." And it's really a very vague term. And it's not that they're trying to really avoid it. Most times people just don't really know how much they're eating. So if you were to get used to eating 4 cups of rice at one meal, and for some people that may not be that far off. If you may not know how much calories that come from that, and then you couple it with something else, and you may end up eating, your entire recommended calorie intake in one meal, but you're used to that. So
Yep.
for you, that's not much. Whereas that person that might be that vegan that runs around all day, they might eat a handful of walnuts or something, and they might say, well, that may not be too much. And that other person that's used to eating a big meal may say, man, I can't eat that. I'm gonna still be hungry. So that's a big thing as far as weight loss and potentially things to look at from a medical perspective. The biggest thing that I kind of boil it down to for folks is the biggest takeaway is calories in versus calories out. There's lots of ways to
Lord
get to
deficit.
to that issue and you want to have a calorie deficit, it doesn't have to be every day you have a calorie deficit, but majority of the days you want to have a calorie deficit, meaning you eat less energy or calories than you expend on the day. Now, sometimes you say, well, man, that sounds like you're going to get tired. Sometimes you do, because it takes a while for your body to get used to, lowering your calorie intake. And a lot of times I tell people that the first step to losing weight is sometimes just to stop the weight gain. If you get used to not eating so much that you're continually gaining weight, your body starts to not store as much food or as much energy, and then you can kind of start that process a little better. Once you get used to, okay, calories in versus calories out, you may say, well, I don't know how to count calories. And that's a tricky thing too, especially if you're cooking from scratch. It's tough to figure that out. So sometimes just, there's a lot of good little applications out there now that can start giving you some insight as to what calories are in things. I push these, but I don't get any money from them. They're free. I don't push for people to get the paid subscriptions or anything. But one such of them is MyFitnessPal. Some people have used Noom as one of the paid subscriptions, including myself. I have used it recently, and I've learned a good bit from it. But it can be fairly expensive, so you don't need it necessarily to start that education goal. Figuring out how much you're eating is a big part, and then seeing if you can start working on cutting back. There's not a one size fits all, and if anyone tells you that, they may have some agenda, or they may just not know of the other options. Yeah. They may just not know it, or they may know that something specifically worked well for them, so it may work well for the next person. There's some people that completely cut out all meat from their diet, and they say, I'm not eating no meat, or they'll say, I'm not eating no rice, or I'm not eating any bread. And that's their way of getting down to that lower calorie in versus burning calories throughout the day, or calorie out, and getting that calorie deficit. Another thing is that the same folks may do great for 6 days out of 7. And in that 7th day, they might hit that holiday style meal where you got, rice and gravy, macaroni and cheese, whatever it may be that ends up being their comfort food. And that may change culturally too. And all of a sudden those calories, they eat so many calories in one time that they don't realize it, that they kind of offset all the calories that they burn throughout the week. And so you can get real frustrated and stagnated when you're busting your butt, you're going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. You cutting out, social time. You're measuring, all your food. You feel like you're still hungry, and then the next week you measure, you get on the scale, and you gained a couple pounds, and or a pound or two, and that gets frustrating, and it can really hit you hard. I've been there, and the biggest thing that you should get from that, if you're going to keep going forward, is, all right, this is what I did do. Let me figure out what I can tweak for the next couple of weeks and see if I can switch it up. Yeah. Every process should be an opportunity to learn and figure out how to best, fit your goals. Some people have unrealistic goals too. That's another thing. Some people want to lose 50 pounds in a month. You're going to be real hungry and real miserable trying to do that. And it may back. I think, if you've ever watched My 600-Pound Life on TLC, Dr. Nalzardan, he gives people goals on weight loss. And a lot of times his goals are typically sometimes like 10 to 20, maybe 30 pounds a month, depending on like how extreme he's going with his diet recommendations and all that. And that's pretty extreme, to get 20 or 30 pounds lost in a month. That's not necessarily realistic or sustainable. That's just trying to get you, down quickly so that you can do something else about it, but for like a natural or conservative measure of weight loss, you want about 1 to 2 pounds per week, and that's about all you can hope for. You may get more, you may get less, but if you kind of keep seeing that downward trajectory over weeks, then you're in good shape.
Yeah, I know. With that, that's something I struggle with, and along with the knowledge you passed down to me during my doctor visits, and with my trainer, she basically got me counting macros.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I keep up with, what I'm putting, how much food I can intake through macros. But, she got me with that one cheat meal. And as of when you first start getting into the weight loss journey, you just think, okay, during the week, I'm gonna do good, and then on the weekend, I'm gonna get my cheat meal, and I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna shine for my cheat meal.
That's
And
it.
I didn't understand what she was doing, but she was setting me up to see what I would do, because I said I'd do my cheat meal on Saturday, way into Sunday. So like you said, if you tear out the frame on Saturday, you step on that scale on Sunday, you're not going to be happy.
No,
And
you
she's
won't.
not going to be happy. So I've learned that if I'm going to do a cheat meal like that, do it during the week. And that way I know I still got to give my 4 to 5 days in the gym, and then I got to get back to the norm. And then on the weekend, just stay on the norm. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a big thing that I've kind of I've talked to you about, but we haven't talked about just yet tonight, is consistency. Consistency is key. So if you consistently eat over your calorie intake, you will gain weight. If you consistently eat under, you will lose weight. If you consistently kind of teeter around, even if you don't do it every day, if you eat more one day, less one day, and it kind of averages out, you'll maintain weight. In general, there are other factors that go into it, and some of them are pretty intense and technical and involved, and that can sometimes help or keep people from losing weight as much as they think they should from their efforts. But generally, if you're consistent, consistency is key, because your body will kind of fluctuate, and it does have some let me say this, it has some fail safes in place where you may start losing weight, and then all of a sudden you notice that you haven't lost weight for a while. You're still doing all the same things, and you're kind of feeling like, okay, things are kind of holding on. You may get a little hungrier here and there, and that's actually something that's real. As we lose weight, let's think about this, evolutionarily. This is how I like to think about it. This may not be completely correct, but in evolution, if we were hunter-gatherers and we didn't have society and we had to go kill what we eat, it's not advantageous for us to lose weight very rapidly. You want to hold on to that, because that's energy. You can last through a rough patch, a rough winter, and we're geared toward that. We are evolved. If you don't like that word, don't subscribe to that thought. We've been conditioned, rather, as a populace, as a race, to really hold on to weight. Some people don't, some people do, but our bodies don't like it when we lose weight. And so you'll start to get kind of triggers and saying that, hey, you might need to eat a little bit more so we can get you back up to where you were.
Please speak on that. Please speak on that, because I remember the first time you told me that, and I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I was confused, and then you elaborated on it, and then I was just like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
kind of elaborate for the people, especially for people who's been their heaviest, and then once you start losing, kind of explain that aspect, because that can get to you mentally, because you
Yes.
not knowing, you're just like, bro, I'm doing everything they asked me to do,
Right.
but I'm still going back. Like, I take one step forward and I take 10 back.
Right.
So
yeah. So that's two things there, is that a lot of people think they expect a linear growth pattern, meaning they're expecting their pattern of weight loss to kind of go straight down across like this. So if I do, the same thing every week, the next week I should lose 1 pound. The next week I should lose another pound. The next week I should lose another pound. and so on and so forth consistently. And actually, the trajectory kind of goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down when you measure. And eventually the average kind of ends up with a downward trajectory when things go well. But it doesn't start out that way. And you can see plateaus along the way, and then you can kind of start going down. But what happens is, and there are some pretty good books on this kind of stuff, and the pathophysiology of weight gain and weight loss, and the science of gaining weight and losing weight. But basically, the easiest way to think about it is your body ends up having essentially like a homeostasis, or a thermostat, so to speak, thermostat for weight. And your body wants to gain weight. So every time you gain weight consistently, your thermostat kind of resets, because your body wants you to have that weight on. And so if you gain 20 or 30 pounds, your body kind of resets to where the weight that it wants to be at is at that extra 20 or 30 pounds. So when you try and lose that 5 or 10, it does get harder to lose it. It seems like it's harder to lose it. You seem like everything tastes better. You crave things more. And that's basically kind of, we think that's kind of evolutionarily our body trying to help us to put that weight back on, so that we don't burn too many calories, and we can actually last or survive longer. And it's been shown to happen. So people that end up losing more weight, they end up scoring that their food tastes better compared to people who have maybe gained weight. And the only thing we can think of is that and also not only that they score that it tastes better, but they end up eating more if you kind of allow them to their own devices, and you're not like portioning out food. And they end up kind of plateauing again. So our bodies do have some things that make it harder for us to lose weight. The one thing that I try and get people to read from that is, you can get it one or two ways. You can say, well, man, that's one more thing I got to fight to get through. Or you can say, okay, it's getting harder. Just kind of like in a video game. When the levels get harder, it means you're doing something right.
Yeah.
When you get to level 50 versus level 1, you run through that, it's a breeze. Level 50, you might have to think some things through. And it just means that you're actually on the right track, even though it can be really frustrating and disconcerting, because you put so much effort into it, and you're not sure how much you should be getting out of it.
Yeah. And you see, that's something I've been learning, because I've been stuck the past 3 weeks on my way in.
Mm-hmm.
I've been stuck between that 508 to 503 range, and it fluctuates every week, and it's just like, dang. Now, granted, I caught on to the cheat meal thing 3 weeks ago, and the past 2 weeks has been going on. I'm at 503. I'm trying to get out the 500s, man.
Hey,
like
that's good, man. You're going down. That's a great thing.
so it's I totally understand, and hopefully the people that's listening out there that go through the same issues that we go through, they'll understand and be able to find a way that works for them, because everybody's body is different.
Everyone is different, and that's a big thing. I mean, everybody individually is different. Men have some differences from women, as far as weight loss and weight gain goes. I've been kind of taught to kind of reinforce with women, when they start seeing that clothes are fitting different, but the scale doesn't move, that you're still on the right path. Keep going, because the weight is coming, and we all always get fixated on the scale and what the scale says, but we sometimes miss out on all the other things that we gain along the way. You may end up, finding more emotional strength in yourself. You may end up finding more physical strength. You may realize, man, I couldn't do a push-up, a month ago. Now I can do 5 of them in a row without taking a break.
Facts.
You may say, well, I can't walk, I can't run anything but maybe, one straight on a track. And then before long, you can stride out, a half of a lap on a track. And, next thing you know, you kind of striding at least, 2/3 of it, and you walking the other third, but then you hit that scale and you see it didn't move, and everybody gets depressed. Sometimes we get goals, we meet other goals along the way that also can help us stay motivated, because it's not all about just one goal in weight loss. If you can make sure yourself you're being healthier, if you're stronger and you're more you have more endurance, you're already healthier that way. You're already improving your cardiovascular system, probably dropping your blood pressure, probably dropping blood sugar, and a lot of these things and probably dropping cholesterol too, along the way. And all these things go into it as far as being healthy, and that's kind of what I look at from a doctor's perspective. Is I want my patient to be healthy, as healthy as they can be, and everyone's a little different. You may always have that person that's got high blood pressure and high cholesterol, but they're not really overweight, but they got a strong family history of heart disease. You want to keep them healthy. You want to make sure you're decreasing their risk of having something that really hits them hard and maybe puts them out of work or keeps them from enjoying their life. Same thing with obesity. You may see some people, we always think about people with that are heavier or overweight or obese, as we call it. And obesity basically is just a certain level or measure of how much overweight a person is. And you may say, well, that comes with it high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. Sometimes we don't see that at all. We're complex creatures, and sometimes we have things going on that kind of help us. And so if somebody's healthy and the only thing they got going for them is they feel like they're overweight, and it's more of a cosmetic thing, we're not harping on that. For them, I'd rather them focus on staying healthy, doing things that they enjoy, try not to gain weight, because that'll help them out as much along the way with health as sometimes losing weight. Even though there's, losing weight always seems to be associated with decreased risk of certain things. It's not the only thing that's associated with decreased risk of health issues. You may have somebody that's 10 pounds overweight, but they're healthy as a horse. And you may have somebody who's, got a six pack, but their cholesterol's through the roof. And, which one of them is going to have a heart attack, or may have a heart attack more. It's not always kind of an apples to apples, oranges to oranges kind of situation. So just making sure that, even though we are sometimes really focused on the scale and what that number reads out, sometimes we got to make sure that we're looking at the whole picture.
Because I know I struggle with that. And, I don't mind being transparent about it. Because whenever I first started coming see you, that was the problem. My blood pressure was a little high. And then, sugar was fine. Cholesterol wasn't that bad. And then it was just like, but stepping on the scale, you're seeing that number and you're just like, bro. And then follow-ups, like blood pressure got better, but the sugar was a little high. And then, but the scale dropped. So, you was like, I'm happy you're losing, but we need to bring that sugar down. Like we need to keep this sugar under control. And, that's something as, people that's obese or overweight, that's something that we really got to pay attention to rather than looking at the scale. And that's a big deal of keeping the weight off, because if we just pay attention to the scale, you're just looking at that number. But if you're not going, because honestly, before coming to see you on the regular, it'd been maybe 6 or 7 years since I've had a doctor checkup regular. I just knew when I was feeling bad, something was wrong. Or I was tearing it up too much. I was eating too bad too much. So
that's not uncommon, actually. Especially we see it a lot. Especially in the 20s and even in the 30s, and sometimes into the 40s age range, where somebody hasn't seen a doctor in really consistently in 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes 20 years. I don't wish that. I don't want that for somebody, because you could have something in there that you're not going to feel that we could help check you out for. So if you haven't seen, some kind of healthcare professional for at least a routine kind of preventative or wellness checkup, I do recommend it. And that's just to make sure you at least know where you are with things. If it's blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, those are main things. There can be others that we can check, and we won't get into too much of that. But, you just may not know where you stand on something before you start a process of weight loss. It doesn't keep you from going after that weight loss or changing that thing in your lifestyle that you want to change. You just may have more information to kind of make sure you do it in a healthy way and don't potentially, harm yourself along the way. Because, like we talked about, there's tons of ways to do weight loss regimens. We talked about calories in and calories out. We didn't talk about a lot of the ways that people do it. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a registered dietitian, so I can't get into all the specifics of it. But a lot of people try to cut calories in general, and that's just their diet. Some people cut carbohydrates out or starches out or sugars out. Sometimes we hear talk about ketogenic diet, and that's pretty much basically a very extreme low-carb diet. And the goal of that is to basically kind of starve your body of carbohydrates so that your body ends up basically tricking itself into burning its own fat, and now you lose weight. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I know for sure that diet is it's really good for diabetics and people with high blood sugar, because they're not going to really get much sugar for their body to process. But as far as weight loss, sometimes it's very stringent and it's tough to navigate, especially in a place like South Louisiana. So the main thing is, whatever your plan is, even if you don't know if it's going to work, try it for a while and, make sure you got people in your corner to help you out and watch out for you and give you some pointers on maybe what might be a pitfall, what you might have to watch out for, but never get completely married to the idea that you have to stick with one program. You might try a paleo diet or a keto diet or a Atkins diet, which essentially keto and Atkins are kind of similar to the same, kind of akin to the same thing. You may try a certain diet that you think works for you for a little bit, but then you realize it's unsustainable. You get cravings, or you can't afford to eat a certain type of way because, it's expensive to buy all meat and potentially all fresh vegetables, as opposed to getting some carbohydrates and whatnot that way to kind of fill up the plate. It may not fit your lifestyle as far as, time to prep meals. So you have to kind of reevaluate along the way and say, okay, is this working for me? Am I getting stressed out even though I'm losing weight because I'm finding less and less time to do it? And, that way you can try and get ahead of the pitfalls before they happen. Because if you burn out on something, you may just throw your hands up and say, you know what, I'm tired of this. And your spirit is gone. So, you always want to reevaluate. And the same thing with exercising. That doesn't mean that you reevaluate it in the middle of your workout when you got a trainer with you. You gotta, at that point, it's probably just head down, push through and get through it. But if something isn't working, if you're not losing weight, then you always kind of work with who you're working with and reevaluate. But have people in your corner, whether it's a trainer, whether it's friends, acquaintances, if it's family members. If you live with people and you trying to lose weight, but they not, y'all might have a trouble when you open up that refrigerator and all your favorite snacks is in there and you trying to stay away from them.
Man.
So it does take a village to do a lifestyle kind of change, because it's not just a weight loss journey. It's a lifestyle change. By the time you get everything going, you've changed so much about yourself through kind of the things you eat, the activities you do, what you focus on, and it's a lifestyle journey. So if you focus on the full picture and allow yourself to kind of to look at this through a different lens, the weight loss becomes part of it, but it's not the entire thing. Yeah. That's something I did pick up along the way. That's not something that I was able to get in medical school. That's kind of in a nutshell, is kind of what I got from the Noom program. It's very oversimplified, in my opinion, from everything that's in there. But that's a good part of it is, don't get bogged down with just one goal. Make sure you can measure progress in different ways and constantly reevaluate whether you're meeting those goals or if you're not. And if you're not, you can't do the same thing and expect different results. You got to switch something up. And it may not be drastic. It may be, okay, well, you know what? I'm low carb, but I've been drinking a Gatorade, after each one of my workouts. You might say, well, maybe I don't really need that Gatorade anymore. Maybe I can switch that out and drink something either low calorie or no calories, like water or tea or something. And you just kind of tweak it along the way. Small steps at each point become big leaps over time, and just got to stick with it. That consistency is key.
Because I know the reason why I named this episode The Blueprint for the people that's listening is because just like, somebody who's building something, you got to have a layout, a blueprint. And that's how it was for me, being that on the regular for 6 or 7 years, I haven't seen a doctor and wouldn't go into a doctor. And then I started coming to you consistently, and you laid out the blueprint to, where I've reached those little small goals to the point to where I switched from eating white rice to brown rice. And I don't eat rice a lot, but when I do, I prefer brown rice. And I never liked brown rice before. Everybody used to be like, man, try brown. I'm not eating it.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's small stuff like that. Oh, right. My partner Sheldon had on last episode. He hit me up one day. I was barbecuing. He was just like, man, stop using that sauce. Try this sugar-free sauce. He was like, I promise you it's good. I was like, man, I'm not doing that. But I tried it, and guess what? That's the only thing I use. So and that's why I call it the blueprint, because you not only, the nutrition, like you said, you're not a nutritionist, but, you gave some valuable points about nutrition. But like the thing about, your body don't want to lose weight. Like, once I got that understanding, it make you be like, okay, see, your body don't want to lose weight. So kind of tone down on the, shining with the fast food, because that's what your body wants. So kind of slow down with that, and
and it really becomes a mind over matter kind of thing, because in a sense that if you let it beat you down motivationally, then you won't be ready to continue that consistency. And if you see it as, just another challenge, and you kind of find a way, well, okay, if I'm not losing weight with this, what can I do differently, or what can I step up my game on? Then you find these little ways. It's basically, any other way in life. When you get hit with with an obstacle, you can either beat yourself, over the head, kind of banging your head against a brick wall, trying to figure out how to get through it, or you can find a way around it.
Yeah.
And you find those small things around it, those small ways, and they end up being big things, over time. I know we talked about yours. You said, an example was the brown rice. Switching to brown rice, switching your barbecue sauce, and those things tend to happen for people when they start looking at weight loss. But sometimes, there are some things that are just non-negotiable at the time. You ain't ready to lose that. I mean, for me, I love Louisiana food, but pizza's a weakness. So if I can get pizza every now and again, I can survive on that. As far as kind of keeping my cravings under control. Now I got to watch out, because I am the type of person that I'll eat the whole box of pizza in one sitting. So I know that's my pitfall. So
you're the only one.
It's tough. I mean,
it can easily be done.
Easily be done. And when by the time you finish that off, you don't feel good about it, but it's already been done. And you may have wiped out the last week and a half of, doing well that you did just from one sitting. So, it just has to be, that's where the consistency comes in. and even the consistency with the quote unquote quit me or cheat meals is going to be, you know, making sure you don't go overboard and completely ruin all your progress, but you know that it's truly something that you really wanted to enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think you shouldn't look at it as I shouldn't enjoy my food. You just got to start trying to find different things that you do enjoy and actually focus on enjoying that food bite for bite, as opposed to, you know, wolfing it down like we used to. And before you know it, you can't even think about, man, what did I eat?
Exactly.
You know, and then the calories are there, your body's working, but you're still kind of on some level, you've sated the physical hunger, but the emotional or the the psychological hunger is still there, and that all plays a part. That's, you know, other subjects that somebody can probably get into more, but but I mean, we've all been there. You know, you eat whatever you were craving, you eat it so fast, and then you still feel like you could eat some more, even though your stomach feels full. You still got that urge to go and eat some more, and
Exactly.
you can tell like there's something there that's going on that's bigger than just I'm full now.
Yeah.
And that catches people off guard.
Yeah. And another thing, you know, you touched on was, you know, for somebody that's on a journey, beginning on a journey, or been on a journey and you had, you know, a setback and you started trending back the wrong way. I know you said it takes a village and, you know, the people you're around help. And I know
Mm-hmm.
some of my friends, like the two guys, Kels and Olin, like with our sports podcast, they always be like, man, try this. You know, it's a healthy substitute for this. And I'd be like, man, no. That's how I was before, like, man, nah. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I started to be like, okay, let me try it, you know, let me try
Right.
it. And then it's not that bad. So I, I was just like, you know what? Stop being afraid to try new stuff.
Yeah.
You're stuck
And
in the
you got to be
way.
ready. And you
Yeah,
got to be ready to do that. You know,
yeah,
you weren't ready yet. And that's a big thing to know, is you weren't ready for that yet. You know,
yeah,
when you know, one of your goals may be to say, you know, hey, by the end of this, I want to make sure I'm eating, you know, salads 6 or 7 times a week, you know, but you know, you hate lettuce. So, you know,
you see,
you may not be ready for that yet.
and
So
you
if
see,
you start,
I'm an iceberg lettuce. You know, I'm about to change my Instagram handle to iceberg shorty or iceberg baby, because my friends call me all the time. It's like, bro, it's pointless eating iceberg, but I don't care. I love iceberg lettuce.
if you
Like,
like it, bro, then you get enjoyment out of that when you eat. If you throw in, you know, arugula in there and you don't care for it, you're not going to enjoy that meal, and you might feel somewhat cheated. I wouldn't take it that far. I wouldn't say it's pointless to eat iceberg. You know, it's not, but there's certain greens out there that may have more nutritional input
the
in
greener
there.
the better.
Yeah, and that's still there. But you know what? What iceberg ends up doing though, is it can help you fill up your plate. That's something else that I've learned along the way. We eat with our eyes before we eat with our stomachs. So if the food looks appealing, we're gonna feel like we're more fulfilled from it. So if you enjoy the look, even if you don't care for salad all that much, but you get all the different colors in a salad, and iceberg is one of those colors, and you got that green there, and you got, you know, reds and yellows and oranges and whatever else may be. Already when you see that, you're like, man, this is interesting. I like the way this thing's looked. And you're going to get more enjoyment out of that than just if you had just a bag of plain lettuce, you know, by itself.
Yeah.
And, you know, you may still enjoy that lettuce, but it won't quite be the same. But if you like lettuce, if you like iceberg, then eat iceberg. If you don't like iceberg, then you might be fighting a battle you're not ready to take on, in trying to like something that you don't like. For me and my wife, when we decided to start doing some more things, we started buying a lot more vegetables at the house. But like for her, she hates olives. I love olives. that for me, as long as I got like olives and mushrooms, especially like in it don't matter how it come. It can come in. I could cook in it. I could cook it, or I could put it on a salad, and that's some way that I can get some consistency in my food.
Mm-hmm.
She hates it. I'm not gonna force olives or mushrooms on her because she's gonna be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stuff that I can't eat. I kind of eat tuna fish. I got a certain way that I like to do it, and if it ain't done that certain way, I can't handle it. So guess what? I'm not gonna be eating from a lot of people is tuna fish.
And you know what? My mom and them. It's ironic that you brought up tuna fish because I was talking about this with somebody that is just like, bro, it's certain stuff growing up in the hood that you just don't eat because you ate it too much when you was young. And tuna fish is one of them for me. Because, man, during Lent, boy, you're not getting no fried fish. You better go fix you a tuna fish sandwich with some Lay's chips. Like, so you just get hot dogs, bologna, like, all that type of stuff like that. You ate it so much when you was young.
Yeah,
that
you just don't want it no more.
It just, as an adult, it's just like, now you still got some stuff that you remember. It's just like, yeah, man, like cornbread and milk. People laugh at me when I say I eat cornbread and milk. Now, I'm starting to switch it when I do eat it. I don't eat it no more because I know it's loaded with carbs. But when I was still eating it, I had got off regular milk and started drinking almond milk. So I was making it with almond milk. And I was making cornbread and almond milk, and that's how I was eating it. But we so, like you said, we so conditioned to eat a certain way. And one of our frat brothers, he said something one day because we was leaving the event, and he's like, "Man, what y'all about to get into?" And it was funny because everybody busted out laughing when he said it, but it made sense. It makes sense now that I'm on this journey and I'm actually taking it serious and starting to actually enjoy learning different options and different outlets to take with on this journey. And I was just like, yeah, man, I'm about to go by the crib, chill, watch a movie, and eat some noodles. And he was just like, he just simply said, you got to get out that Roman noodle mindset, brother. And it was funny because everybody bust out laughing, but now you understand when you read that label, and this is going into my next question for you, and you see that sodium content, it's like, man. And that's just that's just half the packet. So,
right. So yeah, that brought up two good points right there. First with foods, and especially this is something that a lot of people get caught up with in the grocery store is I keep bringing it back to because I think it's still the biggest thing: calories in versus calories out. So people don't really read a lot of labels, but when they do, they realize it's confusing because it's broken down and it'll say calories, and everything is broken down to where the calories don't look that bad. You may look at a box of cereal and the calories say 180 calories. Well, if you can eat 2,000 calories in a day, you're like, okay, that's not too bad. But then you look at the serving size up at the top,
that's
and
what gets you.
Realize that the serving size is like a handful of cereal, and you're like, man, I'm still hungry after that. So what you gonna do? You double up, but people don't quite factor that in, so they end up sometimes doubling what they eat in a portion, what their portion is versus what the actual serving size is on like a container. And that's a huge way that people end up trapping themselves and thinking they're eating the right stuff and end up overeating. The second part of this is that technically you can I know I'm going to get some flack on this, but technically you can lose weight by eating anything if you subscribe to that calorie in, calorie out thing. It's not going to be, this linear great trajectory of weight loss, but if you only eat 1,000 calories a day, and I'm not advocating that anybody eat only 1,000 calories a day because that's too low.
That's rough.
But if you ate 1,000 calories a day as a grown adult, that's supposed to get closer to 1,800 to 2,000 every day, and it happened to be ice cream, you might not get but a bite or two of ice cream a day, or a scoop a day, and you got to live off that whole scoop for the whole day. And you're going to be hungry, and you're going to be, but you'd probably still lose a bunch of weight because you have nothing else to go off of except for your energy stores in your body, which is fat cells, and you start burning them. And if you ate 3,000 calories of that iceberg lettuce. It would take you all day to do it, but you could still gain weight if you somehow manage to eat that 3,000 calories. So it means that anything that's conceived that's seen as healthy and something that's seen as not healthy can always fit into the diet if you make plans for it. The next thing is you talked about sodium. I'm not going to get away from that. Sodium is part of salt, what we think of as table salt, sodium chloride. So that's how we kind of track it in food. We look at the sodium particles, and that's tricky as well, because in a lot of things that are prepackaged, you're either gonna make it taste better with one of three ingredients: salt, fat, or sugar.
Yep.
Those three. That's about all you got. You can do, like, you can say MSG, and there may be other additives in there, but primarily that's what our bodies are trying to get: salt, fat, or sugar. And proteins are there too, but that's a little different. But in the cheap realm, those are the three that people can add to something to make it taste good. So they put sneaky labels on the food. They say it's low fat. Well, low fat may mean high salt if it's a soup, or it may mean high sugar if it's something like a yogurt or a drink. And maybe calories, salt is not necessarily going to give you any increased calories. It won't. But it will put you in a bind because it may raise blood pressure. It may cause you to swell and retain fluid. It may make it harder for you to do all these different things, and it's going to put strain on your cardiovascular system, or your heart and arteries, and kidneys, and lead to a whole list of other issues. So it's really important that if you do use a lot of prepackaged stuff, you keep track of how much salt and how much sodium is in there. And sometimes it's broken down by percentage of daily value, and that can give you a better idea, because you may not say, well, what the heck is 2,000 milligrams of sodium? I don't know what that means. But it'll give you a percentage, and that's based off of what you should be taking in for a day. It gets tricky, but if you just look at it in a general sense of, okay, this can says I got 60% of my sodium intake, but this can says I got 10% of my intake. Well, maybe I need to be getting more of something with that 10% as opposed to that 60%. Same thing for sugar and other things too, in fact. Okay, baby, get something in a little bit. Now, he talking about the same thing we're talking about right now. We're talking about food. He heard us, and my son is talking about he wants some food. So, but yeah, that's a big thing. So salt is kind of one of those things that it kind of sneaks in there. People use it to kind of add it to different foods, especially processed foods. And again, like I said, I think one of the sneakiest things is kind of like low fat salad dressing. And low fat salad dressing just means that that you may have more sugar in it. It may be sweeter. And so somebody say, well, I'm not going to get as many calories, but then you end up getting just as many calories or more, and you still don't feel full. And that's a sneaky way that people end up eating something good and healthy like a salad, but then end up sabotaging themselves, and then they get frustrated.
Yeah.
So, sometimes, you may get frustrated and say, man, he's throwing all this information out. What am I going to do? I can't start reading all these labels overnight. I can't start, exercising overnight. I can't start monitoring my calories all the time overnight. I'm not used to that. You just take one thing at a time, and you maybe focus on one thing for that week, and you just focus on that. And then the next, once, and you say at the end of that week, hey, do I have this under control? Let's say it's making sure I'm working on my portion control, not counting calories, not doing any of that. You just work on, okay, I'm going to eat less portions for this week. And when you feel like you got a handle on it, you move on to the next thing. So once you start eating less of something, then you may say, okay, well, let me look at how much calories is in this, can of soup that I eat. Let me see how much of this can of soup that I eat. Let me use one of these apps, or let me look on Google and Google search how to count calories, and just kind of start working on that. Doesn't mean you got to start keeping track of things right away, but you're starting to look at them, you're starting to track them. And then after a while you say, okay, I kind of think I got a handle on it. Then you start keeping a track of what you eat. And then you say, well, now I see that I think I was doing good, but right in here is telling me I'm gaining, I'm eating 3,000 calories a day. Okay. Well, now I know that I'm eating 3,000 calories a day. Before I didn't know. And I was just going to try and go run it off and realize that I couldn't run off that much. And then you're just stuck in a constant frustration cycle where you try and do good, you end up gaining weight, and you say, screw it, what's the difference? I'm just going to keep eating and being happy. Yeah. And then you kind of beat yourself down because you're like, man, I really want to lose weight. I know I should, but you don't know how. It's complex. When you end up going to your doctor's office and trying to, doc, I need some help. It's not that simple to just give somebody help. It's a lot of education. It's a lot of, that's actually it. A lot of education about figuring out what are we doing wrong and then how do we fix it.
And that's exactly why I named this episode with you The Blueprint, because that's what it was for me. Basically, what you just said, starting off with just, okay, we need to get this blood sugar down. This blood pressure down because, it was high. We got it under control. I was hyped that day too when I took my blood pressure, and I was excited. So we got that under control.
We were too.
Now the sugar went up. And then you just told me, watch out for the substitutes. So, okay, starting to get that under control. Now cholesterol a little high. Now let's focus on that. But all the while you're changing different things and it's helping you along the way. And
right,
you kind of getting a sense of, okay, what I can have and what I can't have, what
right.
works and what doesn't work.
Is that things will fluctuate, especially if you're watching how this changes and you are able to get with a healthcare provider and check these things out. You may see these things fluctuate. You may see one get better, one get a little worse. It doesn't mean that you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because these things are fluctuating, but you're constantly changing along the way. You may start to lose weight, and even though that cholesterol went up because maybe you ate more meat sources and more protein sources to try and get away from the sugar and help your blood pressure, that cholesterol went up a little bit, but you lost a bunch of weight along the way, and then all of a sudden 6 months later that cholesterol is down, and that sugar's down, and the blood pressure's down. So in the long run they tend to kind of go hand in hand, but you may see them fluctuate along the way, and you just want to make sure that you're not borderline going into an uncontrolled diabetes or a big time cholesterol that, you may have a genetic predisposition. Anybody might have it, if you've never checked before, where your cholesterol is just constantly 300 and 400 numbers, and you're supposed to be closer to be 200 or less. And you may feel fine until you're not. So, if somebody like that went on a ketogenic diet, that would be somebody that we got to keep an eye on that cholesterol real quick. For somebody who's everybody in their family is diabetic, we want to make sure we watch out for blood sugar. And that's part of just having somebody in your corner. Now, blood sugar is not something you necessarily have to come to a healthcare professional to check. You can check that with like a finger stick monitor over the counter. Blood pressure, you can monitor that, kind of over the counter without doing it, but you may not know kind of how it plays a part in it. So, just make sure you have somebody in your corner if you don't understand something that you're measuring on yourself and watching, and kind of learn along the way. But the biggest things, I think the same things, I'll say it and just kind of jump on it again so that, we can stress that blueprint is consistency is key. Sticking with the program, constantly kind of reevaluating the program. And part of that reevaluation is, maybe it's daily weights or weekly weights, making sure you're actually losing weight and going along. And when you see you're not, looking back at it and saying, okay, what can I do different? So reevaluate along the way, but never getting completely frustrated and throwing your hands up and completely starting from scratch. Because that would completely kind of wipe out everything that you learned up to that point. So just being as consistent as possible. Sometimes that doesn't mean you can't take a break here or there, But you just got to kind of be careful in how you define a break. A break may be, okay, let me back off a little bit on my calorie restrictions for a day or two because I'm kind of feeling like, but I don't want to give up all the cardiovascular improvement I've had and all the weight training progress that I've had. I want to make sure I got enough energy to make it to that gym. So you eat a little bit more, measured out so that you can feel a little bit better and stay on track. That's not giving up. That's not burning out. That's just, going along with it. We all got to take a little break. Just like when you exercise, you got to take break in between sets. You got to take, you got to have an off season if you're training for a sport. Same thing goes with weight loss. You can't go balls to the wall all the time and not expect to burn out.
Facts.
So consistency and finding a way to be consistent that doesn't feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And like I said, consistency, calorie in versus calorie out, making sure you try and burn off more calories out, keeping track of it, and having people in your corner. And if you got all of those things going, it's still gonna be a struggle, but it's one that you can take on and actually be successful at.
Most definitely. And, I'm going to close out with this. I'm going to let you end it with saying something positive. It don't just necessarily have to be about weight loss or anything, but just something positive. But what he said, about the, eating the extra calorie to make sure you make it to the gym, you do that sometimes, but just make sure, y'all don't be clumsy like me and trip in a pothole and mess your elbow up. So, pay attention to where you're going, because I don't want this pain. I don't wish this pain on nobody. So,
yeah, and speaking of that, I want to, definitely wish you a speedy recovery with that. And this is a potential setback, but it's not a complete setback. Like I said, everything can be a learning experience. So just like you paying that forward, you learn, all right, I got to keep paying attention to my surroundings and can't get kind of lackadaisical. And, who knows, if you wouldn't have learned that now, it could have been worse later. So it's always a silver lining, and there's always something that you can learn to try and prevent something else worse from happening. But I guess to kind of end on a good note and a high note is that I do think that overall, I know we've kind of mentioned that the culture of South Louisiana is tough, especially in, to lose weight. But to me, I think we're starting to see kind of a cultural adjustment as far as like health goes, just because of the advent. I mean, just like we're doing this tonight, we're doing this over the internet. Everyone or most people tend to have more access to things outside of their circles. And so you can hear more voices, hear more stories, see more things that work and things that you've never been exposed to. And because of that, we're starting to see that, hey, I want to know my culture and I want to love my culture and I want to cook all these things these recipes that have been handed down, and I want to hand them down to that next generation going forward. But it doesn't mean I can fit that into my lifestyle the way I want to.
Yeah.
When that happens, you kind of see the best of both worlds. You see somebody who culturally knows, hey, I know who I am. I know who my family is. I can still honor them and pass that along and instill that pride in the next generation without necessarily sabotaging my goals. So I think it's not all doom and gloom. It's tougher for us down here, but it's not the end of the world. And I've seen success stories all the time. I will have to. I'm saying this now because I'm gonna have to get you in touch with him. But it's been some years since I've been in touch with this frat brother of ours from the New Orleans area. I'm gonna find out. There was a guy. He'd been overweight in undergrad. He moved away, I believe, to the DC area, and before I knew it, I'm popping up on a lunch break, looking at Yahoo stories. And I see it's my frat brother running marathons and talking about his weight loss journey. And I didn't even know the guy was starting to run. So if I can get the information, I will find that brother and maybe put him in touch with you. So that could be something that could really be beneficial in somebody's first well, I'll say their point of view on kind of how to do things and what worked for them and what didn't work for them.
Yeah.
This is my reminder that we getting a little over time. This is my oldest. This is Noah.
What's up, Noah?
Hi.
And I guess he's going along the way. I guess the last thing I'll say is that I'm gonna paraphrase a saying from Maya Angelou, because that's the namesake of my youngest, Maya Therese, who is now 3 months old, coming up tomorrow.
Congrats on that, bro.
Thank you. This does not have to necessarily do with weight loss or things like that, but paraphrasing one of her quotes, and she has so many. I may forget what you say, and I may forget what you do, but I'll never forget how you made me feel. And I think that's powerful, and that can sometimes go a long way, even in this and in other ways in life. So I'll end with that.
Yeah, man. Well, man, y'all, appreciate you, bro. Like, for everything you've done for me over the past, it hasn't even been a full year yet. So I really appreciate, the progress I've made between, my support system, and you played a big part in that, because like I said, 6 or 7 years since I've seen a doctor on the regular. So man, I had to get you on here because I'm sharing my journey, and I gotta let people know the man behind the madness, the blueprint. So I had to let people know, man. So I really appreciate you for coming on and sharing that advice with me, and also the people that's going through the daily struggle, man.
And I thank you for having me along the way, both as on this show, which is, I can't tell you how proud I am of you for doing something like this, because it's a way of kind of getting through this for yourself, but it's also a way to pay it forward and help somebody else who may not know where to start. That's what we need. We need people to see that, hey, if they can do this, I can do this too. And I can't tell you how thankful I am to be a part of the journey. And I'm excited to see where this goes. And I'll be there for you as far as anything goes medically, and we'll take care of anything that pops up. But I guarantee you, this is gonna pay dividends.
Yes, sir. I definitely appreciate it, man. Man, thank you again, bro. Like,
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
I'm gonna have to get you get you some more information for maybe another guest.
Okay. Most definitely, man. Well, until next time, man, we out.
All right. Peace.
Peace. All right, y'all, man. Just heard some good information, man. Hey, it don't matter where you start, man. Just start. Don't let nobody talk down on you. Hey, just start, man. Just start. That's all you got to do. Like I said, until next time, we out, man. Love y'all. Go Tigers.